The flag raising on Iwo has been controversial practically ever since Joe Rosenthal's picture came out. Now, one has to acknowledge that there was a flag raising on Iwo Jima at 10:20 in the morning of D+4. And the people that put that up were remnants of the, or not remnants, but were members of the 28th Regiment, and the battalion that put it up had the responsibility of trying to secure Mount Suribachi, because Suribachi at that time was an excellent outpost for the Japanese to be able to look and see what we were doing, and then radio all of their troops and their forces up in the north, where their big guns were and their anti-aircraft stuff was and everything else, where we were, where to target us and everything else on the beach, and also as we came up and took up positions around the end of the big airfield, Motoyama No. 1. So they were looking right down our throats. So we had to take that thing very quickly. And so they did, and one destroyer laid off the beach a very short distance away and just pummeled away at the side of that mountain. You'd see great big heaps of it fall off and roll down. And you'd know that any caves in that area were closed up the way they had done it. And I just thought, how could there be anybody left, you know? But anyway, they had some minor fights, but they got to the top and they were secure, and they sent a small patrol up there. They had no trouble getting up there, but of course there was suspicion that the Japs might have let them get up there with the idea that the following group larger they could annihilate. But it didn't work out that way, and they called for a platoon to go up, and that platoon took the flag with them. Now that flag was a small flag that they had carried all the way from Honolulu, and the commanding officer of the battalion knew that he was going to have to take the top of the mountain, so he figured he might as well have a flag to put up there. And when he sent that platoon up, he sent the flag with it, and they found an old pipe up there, and they managed to put up the flag, and it flew. But it was small, and anybody who goes down to the museum can see the two flags. You see what I mean? And from the rest of the island, they knew that it had gone up. They could see something up there, but it was about that big. And so I got word shortly thereafter from my boss, who was a lieutenant colonel and the intelligence officer, that the General Rocky, wanted a larger flag put up there, and so that everybody could see it. And it would be a good influence to have it up there flying in its full splendor, so to speak. So anyway, I said to the colonel, I said, where the devil are they going to get a larger flag? I said, we're still fighting at the foot of the mountaintop. We're still trying to secure the end run on that. And so I'm talking now a Sunday flag or a holiday flag, which were fairly immense, 10 feet long and 8 feet wide or something like that. But anyway, he said, I don't know. And he said, but he wants one put up, and he said, I suggest that you get two people over there, get two cameramen over there, a movie man and a still man, to cover it, because it may be our official flag raising for the island. So I said, okay, but I've got nobody around. And in those days, we didn't have walkie-talkies or anything of that nature. I couldn't call up Joe over here in the such and such a battalion and say, come on in here, I got something for you to do. So I said, I'll try to see if I could find anybody, but I couldn't leave my CP, and I had Newcomb in there, and he was my assistant by that time. He was a warrant officer as well, and he said, I'll go out and look around a little bit. I said, but don't go too far. And so he couldn't find anybody, but about 20 minutes later, in walked Staff Sergeant Bill Janoust, who shot motion pictures, and a still man, Bob Campbell, who was a private first class, I believe. And they were with the 28th Marines, and they had just come in from that area. They had not shot the first flag raising, however. And so I said, there's likely to be a second flag raising. And the reason that they came in was I'd left orders with all the photographers within a 2-day period or 2.5-day period to come back in, turn in their film, document it, make sure that they've identified everything, and have their cameras checked. I had a camera repairman there, make sure they didn't have, movie guy didn't have a line of sand running down the middle of his frame or something, and also to get new film and then just go back out to their organization. So anyway, that's what they did, and they went right back out, and on the way, as they started up the hill, they ran into Joe Rosenthal, and it just so happened that Bob Campbell and Rosenthal had worked together on a San Francisco paper, I think the Chronicle. And so they just, like old home week, talking and going up the hill. Joe said, you guys have got weapons, you can protect me. And they sort of laughed about that. But anyway, they get up the top of the mountain, and going up, they ran into the photographer who had been up there at that point in time, one of them, Lou
Lowry.
Yeah, Lou Lowry, who was the editor of Leatherneck, not the editor, but photographer for Leatherneck magazine. And he said, well, it was nice scenery up there, but there is a flag up there now, so, no real reason to go up. But they decided to go anyway, and of course, I had told my guys not to tell anybody why they were going up, because I didn't want any expectations to fall down in case they couldn't find the flag, And so, so they didn't say anything about it, and they get up there and they find a new flag is already up there, and they're putting it up. And they got up there just in time. And so Rosenthal built a little cairn of rocks because he was only about 5'7" or something, or 6 or something like that. And so he could stand a little higher, and Bill Janau stood right alongside of him, and Bob Campbell, being a good photographer, didn't want to take the same picture everybody else was, so he got off to the side in a little lower level, and he caught a picture that proved beyond a doubt that there were two flags up there. There was a lot of argument afterwards that there weren't two flags. He shot the picture of the one flag going up, the other flag coming down in the same frame. And so they put the second flag up, and Rosenthal caught it, one shot out of a group of shots that he made, and he was shooting a speed graphic with a 4x5 negative, and when he shot, I think 18 pictures that day, and when he came back down off the island, off the mountaintop, and did some other photographing around through the area, he then went out aboard the flagship and wrote up all of his captions and packaged up his film and what have you, and gave it to the public affairs officer on the ship. And there was two floating aircraft tied up to the stern of the flagship, PBY or a PBM, and they flew it, all the dispatches, all the press stuff that was written on the beach by the civilian correspondents and the Marine Corps combat correspondents, everything that was shipped out during that day. They flew it immediately to Guam, which was the advanced headquarters for CINCPAC, Commander-in-Chief Pacific. And they had put that headquarters there because they'd be closer to the battle and would be able to have everything. Now, they had a great big, Navy had created a great big photo lab. And so all of the stuff from AP, UPI, INS, and any newspaper photographer that was out there, as well as the photographs shot by the military, were processed immediately right there. And 99% of it was speed graphic, 4x5. And there were some 35 had begun to enter into the lexicon and what have you. And there were some Rolleiflex type cameras as well as Rollies. And so they processed everything, and usually they did it all through the night, and the next morning, if the plane came in the afternoon, and they'd do it all night. And next morning, it would be censored. It would run through the censorship office, and anything that was figured to be of censorship value would be deleted, and all the rest of it would be given back to whoever it belonged to. Well, AP got Rosenthal stuff. Of course, that wasn't censored. Got it right away, and they put it on the radio wire and wired it into San Francisco and New York. And so...
And somebody did a great job of cropping it.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to come to. That when they did that, the picture came out as a vertical. Now, he shot a horizontal. So in the horizontal picture, when you look at it, even in a blow-up of an 8x10 frame picture, the flag raising is about that big, because you see everything on the top of the mountain. You see all the debris, the stuff, the construction material that was left there by the Japanese for whatever purpose. And you see ships at sea over here. You see an LST or two on the beach. You see some ships on this side over here. And it was so busy and had so much, what I say is crap in it, that people probably would have looked at it and just put it on the shelf. But somebody had the acumen to realize that there was a picture there. And he pulled it out in the negative sense. He pulled it out of there and made a vertical out of it in an 8x10. And who did that, nobody knows. It could have been done arbitrarily by the guy in the lab, or the lab leader, in looking at the pictures coming out, could have said, hey, this would make a good shot, went back in there and had it made into the blow up. And no one, as far as I know, in AP takes any credit for it. And so anyway, that's what happened. There's a third man someplace in the to coin a phrase out of a film. But anyway, that had an effort on it, and it showed in every Sunday newspaper